هي تؤمن بقيمة الكلمة وبقدرة الكلمة على التغيير حتى لو نطقت بها الآلة. من لبنان إلى هارفارد ثم إلى وادي سيليكون، حيث أنشأت مختبر أبحاث هو الأول من نوعه في العالم. إنها مي حبيب، إحدى رواد الذكاء الاصطناعي ومؤسسة شركة رايتر التي تقدر قيمتها حالياً ب$2 مليار والمدرجة ضمن قائمة فوربس AI 50. سنتحدث من هنا من جراج في الرياض عن العمل في زمن الذكاء الاصطناعي، وعن التحيز واللغة والهوية، وعن الرحلة الشخصية لامرأة تصنع طريقها في عالم تقوده الخوارزميات. أهلا بكم إلى حلقة جديدة من حديث مع صبا. May, I'd like you to explain Writer to me as you would to a 7-year-old.
Well, it's funny, Siba. I have a 6-year-old, so this is not, this is something I do have to actually do. So I think of Writer most simply as a technology that helps take complicated processes inside of big companies that were designed for humans to do them, and we redesign it so that AI can do them.
The other interesting question that I wanted to ask you was the name Palmyra. Mm-hmm. You've named it Palmyra. Is that a nod to the ancient Syrian city, of course?
Yes, of course. And I have been there and visited. Our technology team actually came up with the name. They told me that they wanted to name it that. It was a city that for a long time had a very strong female leader, and a string actually of female leaders. We've got a very strong diverse leadership team at Writer, and we love the nod to the heritage. My co-founder, Wasim al-Sheikh, is Syrian from Damascus.
So you're Zenobia?
Yeah, I don't know about me, but we are.
You are Zenobia. Wonderful. So you built your own LLM. You did not base your solutions on existing LLMs. Why would you do that? And I would have thought in an industry where there's a race to go to market, a shortcut would have been helpful.
Well, great question. I mean, we were born as a transformer company. When we started building encoder decoders, when we were doing machine translation, very few people were actually commercializing for the enterprise this technology. And so, we can, so why don't we, has always been, our stance really on this. And it's so strategic. I mean, if you rely on other people's models, you are always looking in the rearview mirror when it comes to building the products on top of those models. Versus we're able to see how people struggle with adoption of this technology and build it into our roadmap that the models solve these problems. And yes, we do get emergent properties, capabilities that we didn't plan for. Our latest Palmyra 5, for example, produces images, which has been great, and we've productized on top of that, but that's not what you're optimizing for. But for the most part, right, the kinds of things that we will get to bring to market as products in a year from now, I've got a pretty good idea what they're gonna be based on, what research breakthroughs the team has had. And so that's an immensely powerful leverage and innovation that we can bring to our customers. And it's that innovation that we have become known for. Customers are always telling us this is Fortune 500 companies who have 40 vendors a month knocking on their door. They've heard about things from us before they read about them. They use them from Writer before others bring it to them. And that's really because we control that roadmap. Now, having said that, we have, for really commercial reasons, opened up our orchestration platform to third-party models. So you can orchestrate any tool, any data, any model with our technology. But still, in the vast majority of the actual, processing, the tokens happening, on the platform is happening through Palmyra.
So how did you make Palmyra so faster and cheaper than everybody else? And in such a short time as well. What has it been, 3 years?
So yeah, we've been building models for 5 years. Palmyra as a family is about 3.5 years old. For us, it's really come down to three big sources of innovation, I would say. One has been on the data front. We were the first to really pioneer synthetic data approaches. Now, necessity is the mother of all invention. We couldn't afford, the tens of millions, or in many cases, hundreds of millions people were paying scale, really, for labeling services. Now, our latest models do and use, elite kind of expert, think PhD and clinician level labeling. But for the vast majority, of the data that we have created, right, it's been synthetic, and that has dramatically reduced costs. When people put, these big price tags on model, the vast majority of that cost is not the actual GPUs. It's actually assembling the data set, right, to do that. So synthetic data has helped a lot, and now, that is the mainstream approach to so many of these training runs. We've also pioneered how and when to stop training a model, and those kinds of techniques we've published about. And then the third, has really been about just the algorithmic innovation. I mean, models are algorithms, data, and compute. Those are the ingredients, and we've really on three of the three innovated as a necessary condition to build these models.
And what does this independence then allow you to promise and deliver to your customers?
Yeah. So why does an enterprise bet on Writer, right, when they're getting Microsoft for free, Google for free? I mean, they think it's free. It's not really free, but that is how it's positioned. We're able to do reliability and consistency at scale in a way that's very differentiated for these mission critical use cases. And we're able to do that because we've got this full stack approach, right? Think Elon Musk and the Tesla, right? I mean, that is a full stack car, and you can best control the quality when you control every layer, especially when it comes to agentic AI. Agentic AI is about a system of agents that work together, and you're being orchestrated. And if you don't orchestrate quality, you do not get quality. Even with a few percentage points of errors, that really compounds if you've actually got a multi-step flow. And so, we're able to provide this engineering scaffolding on top of the models while really understanding how these models work. And that approach from both the model up and the engineering down really gets us to that reliability and consistency that enterprises need to be able to scale AI. Because if you don't scale AI, you just have personal productivity, right? Which is great. It makes a lot of people's lives better, but you're not saving money, you're not growing the business if people are, doing their jobs 10, 15, even 20% faster. That person still is in that role, still largely doing their job as it existed 5, 10 years ago. It's really only when you can design systems that can be autonomous, at least semi-autonomous, that you start to get the gains of AI, and you can't do that without reliability, consistency, quality. So it gives us a real edge.
So AI, this artificial intelligence, it makes me stop to think, again, here's a philosophical question for you. What is intelligence?
Yeah.
Intelligence, what is it?
When you get any kind of distance from what we do, you really come to understand that LLMs are actually quite dumb, right? They don't have memory. Context has to be provided. They don't learn. Your granddaughter, my daughter learn way easier and way faster, right, than the most powerful models today. And still humanity, we have not yet engineered anything close to the complexity that nature has. But we are upon the dawn of a new age where we are creating intelligence that is going to be able to create intelligence that will get to, right, that level. And I think our ability, even as writer, right, to do so much of what people do at work via AI, even with these models being still as limited as they are, tells us so much about how we have underutilized human potential and human genius, right? The things that we have created that are actually so much simpler than a single human cell that are able to actually take over so many of these tasks. And from an execution perspective, the cost of execution is becoming near free. And our value as humans is going to be in the ability to orchestrate systems of execution versus executing ourselves. And I think that becomes the beginning of human superintelligence, right? I mean, we ask so much, oh, when is AGI coming, et cetera, et cetera. I want to ask, when do we really break through and use way more of our power and our brains at work versus really needing to dumb it down and do these tiny tasks that AI should be doing?
Some will argue that maybe by relying more and more on artificial intelligence, we're actually getting dumber and dumber.
Well, there are definitely some disturbing initial studies, right, that have shown that in colleges, when you do give AI to students who are studying, it definitely hampers, right, their ability to absorb that information. And I know from my own use of AI, I write a lot online, and the posts where I have not used AI at all, I could rewrite from memory. The posts where I've used AI a lot, I really have to think about how I constructed the argument. So there's no question. The answer, I think, really has got to be, how do we intentionally create early rungs of ladders as we learn about, how a profession works, how a business works, where we do a lot less of reliance on AI, right, than we would otherwise, because we're in learning mode.